Good evening and welcome to A Couple of Marks. I am Johnny Mark.
And I am DJ Mark.
And we are live from the beautiful studios here in Arlington, Texas.
Those studios being my house.
It's A Couple of Mark Studios.
A couple of Mark Studios in my house. So this week, we got some. It's been a crazy kind of week in pro wrestling.
It has?
Not crazy like, well, I don't know. Crazy Silver King died. That's pretty
crazy.
we'll
Ashley,
talk about that
more of a, what's her name? Ashley, what's her face?
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about, we
okay.
got a lot of things to talk about here.
Sorry.
So, but I think the biggest thing is All Elite Wrestling. Is there a new war brewing?
Could be. This
Kinda
Saturday, we'll
like
find
right?
out. Mm-hmm.
They announced a brand new TV and pay-per-view deal with Time Warner. What does that mean for the future? You know, we'll talk a little bit about what got us to this point and what that means. We are going to do a superstar spotlight on two men who spent a considerable amount of time in the sport of professional wrestling, but did not do it in the WWF or WWE. Shane Douglas and JEFFJARRETT Jeff Jarrett. We'll talk about those two and what they've done in professional wrestling. And in the main event of the evening, we will talk about all of the competitors that have come for WWE's throne and failed with this new war that may be happening in professional wrestling. What did that look like before, and what does that look like today?
Who's going to shape up? Who's going to try to step up? Who's still on that Iron Throne? Because technically, for some people, tonight, the end of Game of Thrones.
That's true. As we are as we are recording this,
we wrote a lot of it.
I did. We do write a lot of the show out before we do it. It is the end of Game of Thrones tonight. Money in the Bank.
Oh, it's true. Oh, that's right. Double.
So
time.
It's a lot. It's a crazy Sunday night happening.
There will be deaths, but only on one of them.
I mean, I fucking hope.
There will be. I really hope there's no deaths. Ricochet scares me sometimes. He's a good artist, and I enjoy what he does, but he scares me.
So, since the last show aired, unfortunately, we did lose both Silver King and Ashley. How do you say her
Massaro, I just looked it up.
Massaro. It's always sad anytime a professional wrestler, anyone in the professional wrestling family dies.
Especially before they're before you would normally. Would imagine.
Right. Even Silver King was older, I think, than...
He was. He was still in the ring, though. It wasn't...
Right, he was still working. He was working, when that happened.
And then Ashley was only 39 when she passed, so...
I heard that she was kind of, working towards a comeback, too.
I think, because I heard that there was tweets from the day before where she was answering all bunch of fan mail, and there was a lot of it there, so... Yeah, thoughts to those families, and... thoughts to anyone that this affected. And if you need anything, any help... Couple of Marks 1 on Twitter.
Exactly.
It's the number one, because we are the number one Couple of Marks podcast.
So that being said, last week, All Elite Wrestling on TNT
announced they had a giant TNT party. Yeah. Very runway, red carpet-ish. Everyone looked fantastic. They even got a picture with Shaq. I don't know if anybody saw it. Cody looks just like Max Headroom. I really wanted that shirt made. I put it out there on Twitterverse. We'll see what happens.
So they're going to do pay-per-views, traditional pay-per-views. They're also going to do through their Bleacher Report Live.
If you're outside
streaming
of the U.S., you can watch it on Fight TV or the Bleacher Report app, which I did not realize there was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was like, what is BR? Oh, right. Bleacher Report.
Oh, Bleacher Report. Gotcha.
I did see that TNT tweeted out a very WCW-esque logo on fire, stating that they were back in the wrestling business.
Took you long enough.
Sort of hearkening back to Ted Turner saying to Vince McMahon that he was in the wrestling business.
I'm in the wrestling business, Vince.
So how did it start? How did we get here to today?
So World Championship Wrestling, we just mentioned it, got bought. Well, actually, it was already kind of owned by one Theodore Turner, and he really loved... I mean, he's a Southern boy, so he loves wrestling.
Loves hunting and wrestling.
Loves hunting, wrestling, and beautiful blondes.
And owning TV stations.
And that's what he does, and that's how we got WCW. WCW obviously was
That's how we got WCW like at such a high level.
Right, exactly. We got it on TBS. Later, we got it on TNT. It obviously started from the NWA, from the Crockett Promotions, and then Ted just kind of took it over and was like, you know what? Here's some money. Throw it at it.
He gave it the money that they needed to, and the money and the television that they needed to compete with Vince McMahon, which we will talk about later in the show.
Right, exactly.
I think also to note, WCW was where Cody Rhodes' daddy cut his teeth. Not cut his teeth. It was in the
He was in NWA.
But he definitely did a lot in WCW, especially in those early days.
He also had the pencil a couple times.
Yes, he did. But I think the genesis of this is probably being the Elite.
Yes, without a doubt. They found a way to... So, the Being Elite, if you don't know, Being the Elite is a YouTube show...
If you're listening to this podcast and you don't know, though...
Some people don't. Some people don't go down the rabbit holes of the YouTube.
Fair. Then they're really not going to be interested in this show.
I'm a little behind on the Being the Elite show as well. But it is... it started kind of like as the Young Bucks had just a vlog that was going on. It's like, hey, this is what it looks like when wrestlers travel. And then they realized, oh...
A lot of people are watching this, and we can kind of like do something with this.
We can actually make storylines, further storylines, make things actually happen. So like last year at the Supercard in New Orleans, when the main event was Marty Scurll versus Dalton Castle for the ROH title, everyone really knew the main event was Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes, because they built it up so much from actual shows and then also Being the Elite. So Being the Elite, they realized, you know what? We don't have episodic TV, so let's make our own episodic TV.
New Japan at that time didn't have episodic TV. I mean, they
still
do,
don't.
but in Japan, but not here. It's not like watching New Japan is not like watching the WWE, where there are storylines that you see every week. There are storylines, yes,
but they're mixed in with 6-man, 8-man tags.
Well, and we also don't speak Japanese, so any TV show produced for New Japan, not strictly made for America, will not be the same as it is for WWE. And I think American wrestling fans really like the story. It's not always about what's in the ring. So I think Being the Elite did exactly what you said, which was turn them into let them do their own show to get themselves over, and I think it worked.
It did. I mean, look at All In. It sold out, and they announced everything on Being the Elite.
That's what I was going to get into. Yeah. Meltzer, in 2017 said what he said, ROH can't run a 10,000 seat venue, and Cody Rhodes and the Bucks were like, yeah, we'll take that bet, which led to All In, which was very, very driven by Being the Elite.
Right,
I mean, you
exactly.
were there. You were keeping up with it.
I actually tried to explain that so I went with brother Eric, and I brought one of my friends from high school, and she was not exactly a wrestling fan. She was just more or less. I sold her on. It started with 3 guys, and they're self-promoting it, they're self-funding it, and it's sold out in less than 30 minutes. And so I was like, when we were there, when they weren't doing video packages, I was like, okay, so this guy's here for this reason, they're here to doing this. And she's like, oh, wow, I really got to watch this. And so she was very taken by the entire thing.
I mean, that's telling that someone who hasn't really watched any of the shows was still like, oh yeah, I get it. It's cool.
She liked Kota Ibushi a lot, but I understand because he's a very attractive man.
He's a beautiful man. So they did that in September of 2018.
Yes.
In November of 2018, a bunch of trademarks got taken. All Elite Wrestling, AEW, Double or Nothing.
We mentioned this also. I don't remember which episode it was.
Probably
one of our first couple.
Yeah. So that happens, and in December, the Bucks, Cody, Hangman, they leave ROH. Then January 1st, on an episode of Being the Elite, that's when they announce AEW.
Yes.
The next day is whenever you find out the cons, that the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars are involved. They tease Kenny for a while, and finally Kenny leaves New Japan. And
3 days later, he does lose the belt, and then that's when he can fully announce.
Right.
Yes.
So I right then, new things were really happening. Once they had money behind it, again, it kind of seems like they need a real legit money man to make a go of it, because we'll talk about some promotions later that did not have, I think, that, and I think that they've suffered for it.
Yep.
What else?
EC Dub.
What else do you think about All Elite that is going to what do you see for their future? I guess because right now they have a pretty stacked talent pool, but like it's very stacked, like with about 10 main people, and then not very stacked. But I guess all wrestling.
I mean, exactly.
Right?
All wrestling, you're going to really have that. So they do have a very good working relationship with AAA, and they seem to have somewhat of a relationship with New Japan, considering the next challenger for Okada's world title is, in fact, an AEW member named Chris Jericho.
I think he has that written in his contract, though, that he still gets to...
I mean, I would think so. But from what I've heard from someone who has, in fact, signed an AEW contract. I'm not going to name names. I have mentioned maybe their name before. But they did say that inside the United States, it is a no-compete.
Gotcha.
Outside of the United States,
so you could still, in theory, be like, yeah, I'm going to have a deal with AAA.
Yeah, so whatever. Lucha Brothers and maybe a Sammy Guevara could still wrestle down in AAA if they wanted to.
I did hear that the product is going to have, they're going to have like a different spin on it. It's going to be, in my mind, it kind of sounds like they're going to present it more like UFC.
Where wins and losses actually matter.
Right, and there's going to be stats, and, they're going to do the ring style that they all, do, the less scripted promos. You do that, and I think that you give yourself a very legitimate alternative to the WWE.
I mean, I think that's kind of the good thing about New Japan, because wins and losses do in fact matter over there. So if you do, let's say you're the Intercontinental Champion right now. Not that you're as beautiful as Bushi, no offense, but I don't think nobody really is. I mean, look at that guy. You might as well be a Greek god made in Japan. But you pin him. I pin you because you are the Intercontinental Champion in a 6-man tag. I am now next in line for a Intercontinental title match. So I do believe those wins and losses will matter, as is the UFC should be when they're not trying to sell pay-per-views, because we all get it.
I think it's going to be good, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to paying $50 for Double or Nothing, but
no offense, I'm not going to pay anybody anything for anything.
Anyway, so that's where AEW's at. I think it's going to be great.
We'll get further into the AEW Double or Nothing card later, but there have been changes, and there will be changes down the road, and we will get into it.
So let's talk about the Superstar Spotlight of this week. Shane Douglas. Let's talk about Shane Douglas.
Is it Dean? Or are we talking franchise?
We're going to talk about all of it.
All of it. I like it.
He was. I don't know. I'm sure you know, but he was trained with Mick Foley. Him and Mick Foley.
They were.
With Dominic DeNucci up in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I think
he is from Pittsburgh.
I think they're like the only two people who were like,
notably named.
Yeah. So they got their start there. They did the indie stuff for, I guess it was territory stuff for a little while.
Brian
had no idea.
Brand is the other person. He's a referee.
Oh yeah. I had no idea that Shane Douglas is in the UWF until I started looking into him.
Really?
Yeah, I had no clue. Apparently, he won the TV title there, which in '87, which means that he was there for a little bit anyway. But he was in the NWA very, very early on in a tag team with Johnny Ace. Called the Dynamic Dudes.
Hey Shane, That's a terrible. Hold on.
Their gimmick was that they were like,
"Hey Shane,
I was like, I don't know
hey man, I think you're. I'm gonna ride in on a skateboard."
Sound and look like Super Dave.
Yeah, exactly, just like that.
But
with a skateboard.
Yeah, but they had skateboards that they didn't know how to skateboard, and apparently the fans were like, "Shut the fuck up with this."
Thank you and no.
So Jim Cornette was like, "I can get these guys over. We'll feud with the Midnight Express, and we'll get them over."
Put anybody with Midnight Express.
Except that the Midnight Express got more over.
Oh no, because they were a heel tag team.
Yeah. Well, no. The Midnight